They laughed because I stayed quiet. They thought silence meant weakness, fear, or surrender. While they spoke over me, took credit, and rewrote the story, I did the only thing that truly mattered. I watched. I listened. I remembered every word, every look, every lie. They assumed time would erase what they did. They were wrong. Silence didn't erase anything. It sharpened it. Because some people don't forget pain. They study it. Some betrayals don't arrive with screaming arguments or public humiliation. They come quietly, hidden behind smiles, polite conversations, and fake concern. They settle deep, waiting for the right moment to be remembered. This story isn't about anger in the heat of the moment. It's about patience, awareness, and the kind of revenge that doesn't rush. Before we continue, if you enjoy intelligent revenge stories where silence speaks louder than rage, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps this channel grow and allows more stories like this to reach people who've learned that staying quiet doesn't mean losing, it means preparing. I wasn't always quiet. At the beginning, I spoke like everyone else. I shared ideas, asked questions, tried to be part of the room. I believed effort mattered. I believed being useful meant being valued. I was wrong. In meetings, my voice slowly became background noise. I would start a sentence and someone louder would finish it for me. An idea I mentioned casually would come back a week later, spoken by someone else, praised by everyone. When I noticed it happening, I told myself it was coincidence. When it kept happening, I told myself it wasn't worth fighting over. That's how silence begins. Not as weakness, but as adaptation. I learned the hierarchy without anyone explaining it. Who could interrupt? Who never got interrupted? Who spoke confidently without knowing much? And who knew everything but was never asked? I watched people smile while planning each other's exits. I watched loyalty changed based on convenience. And I stopped talking. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just less. I answered when spoken to. I nodded, I listened. And the quieter I became, the more comfortable they felt around me. They said things they wouldn't have said if they thought I mattered. They complained, they bragged, they slipped. Silence makes people careless. They began to assume I wasn't paying attention, that I didn't understand the politics, the games, the small betrayals disguised as teamwork. I was invited to fewer conversations, but exposed to more truth. When you're invisible, people forget to hide. I noticed patterns. Who took credit? Who shifted blame? Who always landed safely when others fell? I kept my reactions neutral. No anger, no resistance. I let them underestimate me. Because underestimation is a gift. It lowers defenses. It opens doors you're not supposed to see behind. Inside, though, I was changing. I stopped hoping things would improve. I stopped expecting fairness. I replaced emotion with memory. Every slight, every dismissal, every quiet decision made without me, I stored it all, clean and untouched. They thought my silence meant I accepted my place. What they didn't understand was this. Silence wasn't surrender. It was preparation. Because when you stop talking, you start seeing things clearly. And once you see clearly, you never forget. Betrayal rarely comes from enemies. Enemies are predictable. Betrayal comes from the ones who sit close enough to learn your habits. There was someone I trusted, not because they earned it, but because they mirrored it. Same frustrations, same complaints, same quiet jokes after meetings. We spoke in low voices, believing we were on the same side of the glass. I didn't realize I was feeding them pieces of myself. At first, it felt harmless. Casual conversations, small vents, thoughts I never shared publicly. I assumed loyalty worked the way honesty did, that if you offered it, you received it back. What I didn't see was how carefully they listened. Information travels faster than truth when it's whispered to the right people. My doubts became evidence. My concerns became attitude problems. My silence became proof that I had nothing valuable to say. They learned how to frame me without lying. When things started going wrong, I felt it before I saw it. Invitations stopped coming. Conversations ended when I entered the room. People avoided eye contact like guilt was contagious. Then came the moment everything shifted. A mistake happened, one I didn't make. A decision failed, one I wasn't part of. But the story was already written. I wasn't invited to defend myself. I wasn't asked for context. They didn't need the truth anymore. They needed a clean exit, and I was the easiest name to erase. The betrayal wasn't loud. No confrontation, no accusation to my face. Just a calm meeting, neutral expressions, carefully chosen words. They thanked me for my contribution. They said it was nothing personal. They said it was what's best for everyone. Those are the phrases people use when they want to feel innocent. I walked out with my dignity intact, but my trust shattered. And as the door closed behind me, I realized something painful and clarifying at the same time. The person I trusted didn't destroy me. They revealed the structure I was standing in. I replayed every conversation in my head, every pause, every question that lingered just a second too long. It all made sense now. They weren't listening to understand me. They were listening to translate me. And I let it happen. That realization hurt more than losing my position, because betrayal doesn't just take something from you. It forces you to see yourself clearly. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. I felt something colder, something steadier, because now I knew exactly how this game was played. After I was gone, the noise disappeared. No meetings, no small talk, no forced smiles. Just silence and space to think. Most people rush to explain themselves when they're pushed out. They defend, complain, look for sympathy. I did none of that. I didn't rewrite the story. I didn't correct the lies. I let them believe whatever made them comfortable. Because comfort makes people sloggy. Instead, I reviewed everything. Slowly, carefully. I replayed conversations like recordings, paying attention to what I ignored before. Tone, timing, hesitation. Patterns that felt insignificant now lined up with precision. I started organizing memory the way others organize files. Who approved what? Who benefited from which decision? Who disappeared when accountability arrived? The truth wasn't dramatic. It was methodical. And once I saw it clearly, I couldn't unsee it. I studied the system that allowed them to rise, the shortcuts they justified, the rules they bent just enough to look legal. Every structure has pressure points. You just don't notice them when you're emotional. So, I removed emotion. I didn't want revenge that felt good. I wanted revenge that lasted. While they moved on, assuming I was irrelevant, I rebuilt quietly. I sharpened skills they never noticed. I learned regulations they never read. I paid attention to contracts, clauses, dependencies. the boring details that destroy people when ignored. Memory became my advantage. I remembered names others forgot, dates they assumed didn't matter, decisions they hoped time would erase. The longer I stayed silent, the more invisible I became. And invisibility gave me freedom. No one monitors what they no longer fear. I didn't contact anyone. I didn't threaten exposure. I didn't hint at consequences. I let distance do the work for me. Distance makes arrogance grow. And arrogance always leaves fingerprints. I waited, not out of hesitation, but certainty. I knew the moment would come when pressure would expose cracks. Systems built on shortcuts always fail under scrutiny. When that moment arrived, I wouldn't need to raise my voice. I would just need to remember. Because memory doesn't fade when it's fueled by clarity. It sharpens. And when the time comes, it speaks for itself. They thought silence meant I moved on. In reality, silence meant I was ready. The moment didn't arrive with drama. It never does. It came disguised as urgency, late calls, rushed decisions, quiet panic hidden behind professional smiles. A project they rushed, a risk they minimized, a promise they made without understanding the cost. I heard about it indirectly. That's how you know something is wrong, when the people who once ignored you suddenly remember your existence. My name surfaced carefully, not publicly, not confidently, as a suggestion, a last option wrapped in politeness. I didn't respond right away. Silence, once again, did the talking. When I finally agreed to meet, the room felt different. The confidence they wore before had thinned. Their sentences were shorter, their questions more cautious. For the first time, they were listening. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't mention the past. I asked questions. Simple ones. Questions that exposed contradictions. Questions that required documentation. Questions that forced them to slow down. Every answer revealed something. Gaps, assumptions, missing approvals. They tried to explain around them, but facts don't bend under pressure. I didn't bring emotion into the room. I brought records. Emails they forgot existed. Timelines they hoped no one would connect. Decisions signed too quickly. I didn't present them as weapons. I presented them as clarity. And clarity is dangerous to people who survive on ambiguity. The more I spoke, the quieter the room became. Not because I was loud, but because the truth required attention. They began correcting each other, backtracking, adjusting their posture. I watched the realization settle in slowly. This situation couldn't be managed. It had to be owned. The turning point wasn't when they realized I was right. It was when they realized I was prepared. They tried to shift responsibility. The system pushed back. They tried to minimize impact. The numbers disagreed. Every escape route they'd used before closed cleanly. I didn't smile. I didn't enjoy it. Revenge isn't satisfying when it's precise. It's quiet, controlled, almost clinical. By the end of the meeting, nothing was resolved, but everything was exposed. And exposure is irreversible. I stood up, thanked them for their time, and left without waiting for permission. This time, they didn't stop me, because they finally understood something that changed everything. I wasn't asking to be heard anymore. I was the one holding the truth. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They never do. They came slowly, like gravity, unavoidable, indifferent, precise. No announcements were made.
No public apologies. No dramatic downfall anyone could point at and say, "That's the moment everything ended." But things began to shift. Meetings changed hands. Responsibilities were reassigned. Names stopped appearing where they once dominated. People started asking questions. Not emotional ones, structural ones. Audits followed. Reviews became stricter. Processes that once relied on trust were suddenly measured by proof. And proof doesn't care about reputation. I wasn't in the room when the first position was lost. I didn't need to be. I heard about it days later, casually, my gossip that didn't realize how heavy it was. Someone stepped down. Someone else pursued opportunities elsewhere. Those phrases again. Clean, polite, dishonest. Reputations don't collapse loudly. They erode. I watched from a distance as doors quietly closed. Invitations stopped coming. Calls went unanswered. The same confidence that once filled rooms now struggled to survive private conversations. And the person who betrayed me? They avoided my name completely, as if saying it might reconnect the dots they were trying to forget. But forgetting doesn't erase impact. It just delays understanding. I never confronted them. I never explained myself. I never asked for acknowledgement. That was the real revenge. Because nothing confuses people more than consequences without conflict. They replay every decision, searching for the moment it went wrong, wondering if it could have been prevented. It could have, but they didn't choose differently. As for me, I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel victorious. What I felt was lighter, unburdened by the need to be seen or validated by people who never understood value in the first place. I walked away clean. No scars on my reputation, no lies to defend, no noise behind me. They finally learned what silence had been protecting all along. Silence wasn't weakness. It wasn't fear. It was discipline. And discipline always outlasts arrogance. I said nothing. I remembered everything.
Not every injustice needs an immediate reaction. Not every betrayal deserves a loud response. Sometimes the strongest choice is restraint, the kind that allows you to see clearly while others rush blindly forward. Silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes a mirror. It reflects people's true character, their shortcuts, their arrogance, and the cracks they pretend don't exist. This story isn't about revenge fueled by anger. It's about patience fueled by awareness. Because when you remember everything, you don't need to shout. The truth speaks on its own, in consequences, not words.